welcome to the Grand Review. This is the show that's all about movies and movie news. I'm your host, the lost, scared little lion cub. I'm not doing it again. Garrett Ray, and joining me, it's the great and terrible Andy Delia.
Thank you.
I was trying to choose between calling you the wizard or saying the flying monkey, but that seemed like it would be rude.
I could be a flying monkey.
Oh, well, then I chose the wrong thing.
That works.
Maybe we should do it again. Welcome to the Grand Review. I'm the scared little lion cub, Garrett Ray, and this is my co-host, the flying monkey, Andy Delia.
Thank you.
There we go. Now we get to have it both ways.
Okay.
See, that's the thing, is if you play both sides of the fence, you never lose.
Which is just like Wicked.
Yeah. Speaking of Wicked, that's our movie for today. So this is part of a twofer, if you will.
Yeah.
We've already reviewed Gladiator 2, which came out this weekend. You can check that out. That's the previous episode of this podcast. But this episode, we're talking about Wicked. If you've never joined us before, here's how it works. We're going to do spoiler-free right up front and just kind of tell you if the movie's worth your time or not based on our impressions of the movie and then kind of the audience reaction we saw around us. And then we'll get into spoilers, but we'll totally let you know when we're about to do that. And then we've got one little bit of news that I'm going to throw in here just for fun at some point. But we did most of the news on Gladiator.
Most of our news is on Gladiator. Yeah. So if you really want to hear that, just go back and listen to that podcast.
Yeah. And any of these episodes, there's always time codes in the show notes. So you can always go and look at those and jump around wherever you want to go. But
Jump around.
Jump around. Have fun, have a good time. I don't know why I'm from Transylvania. Hey. All righty. Well, let's talk about Wicked. This is the spoiler-free section of the show. And we always start with Andy's thoughts. Andy, what do you think about Wicked?
Actually, I liked it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What were your expectations going in?
My expectations were that I was going to hate this. And it's weird because I've actually seen the Broadway play. Mm-hmm. And I like the Broadway play. And most everything associated with The Wizard of Oz I don't really care for. Even Sam Raimi's movie with The Wizard of Oz, and, The Great and Powerful with James Franco.
Yeah.
It's okay, but it's just not my thing.
Sure.
But this, I actually like. I like the whole misfit thing and kind of how the misfit comes around and kind of bites everybody in the butt, and how the story plays out.
I was surprised they showed that much teeth on cheek action. I tell you what, I was not expecting that. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it's enjoyable. The music's good. I do have some issues with it.
Okay.
Ariana Grande, for just generally the most, is my criticism on it.
Really?
Because when she sings, I can't understand half the stuff that she says.
Yeah, there's definitely some songs there where I'm like, what?
Well, yeah, I need subtitles.
What? And I mean, it's impressive how high she can get and how clear it is. Her register is incredible, and I'll never argue that Ariana Grande can't sing. However, there were some places where I'm absolutely just like, that's a very high note. What?
But in comparison to the woman that played Elphaba, that clearly had a great range as well, and went high notes, but you can understand everything that she said.
Yes.
And just had this powerful voice that I just really was drawn into.
Yeah, Cynthia Erivo, definitely. I think she's been in other movies before. She played Harriet Tubman in the movie. I can't remember if it was called Harriet.
I skipped that just because it looked kind of ridiculous.
I didn't watch it either, but I know that she was praised for her performance in that, and and I really didn't know that much about her. We, of course, were part of the pylon making fun of her for her reaction.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad about that now.
Well, I thought the same thing about halfway through the movie, and then I went, wait a second. You can be a really good performer and also say something that's kind of stupid.
Okay.
So that being said, this is definitely the biggest thing she's done.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Even though she has, so she was in Bad Times at the El Royale. No one saw that.
I saw that.
How was that?
No, that sucked.
Okay. She was in Chaos Walking, which nobody saw and was bad. Needle in a Time Stack, never even heard of that.
Which one was Chaos Walking?
That's the one with Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland that was...
Oh, yeah. Nobody went to go see that. Even me.
Yeah, it was deemed unreleasable.
Oh, really?
And they had to come back and do reshoots 2 years later, and it did not fix it.
Yeah, and you know what studio was behind that?
Was it Sony?
No.
Oh, was
close?
It was, hold on. I'm going to get this. Was it... Lionsgate?
Yep.
It was Lionsgate. Oh, the Lionsgate Award.
The mark of perfection in cinema.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, so she did Chaos Walking, Needle in a Time Stack. She was in the Pinocchio Disney Plus. She played the Blue Fairy. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
She was in a movie called Drift, which no idea. She was in
clue.
Luther, the Fallen Son, which stars Idris Elba, Netflix thing. But then,
she was Luther is the British crime show that Idris Elba did. So that was a one-off movie that they did. I'm pretty sure I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I really like that series.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how I got into Idris Elba initially.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Idris Elba is great. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he is.
I even liked him in the Dark Tower. Like, he was great in that, even if everything else was bad.
Dark
It's
Tower,
not a good movie.
No,
don't get me wrong.
I've read all those gunslinger books too, the Stephen King. It's just not even close.
Yeah, I walked out of there feeling disappointed in the lore, and I didn't even know anything about it.
Yeah, so I had more reference than you did, and I really hated it.
Yeah, that was kind of how everyone sounded when they walked out. But anyway, she does all of those things, and it's not that they're necessarily all small projects, but they are projects that mostly get overlooked or forgotten.
Right.
And now, bam! Wicked.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of pressure that she's under is probably something that neither of us understand at this point. Well, maybe you've got kids, but it's like maybe she just had a bad day, but also what she said was a little ridiculous. It was a fan poster. I think she did come out and apologize later, though. So
I think you're right about that. I think she did too. So we kind of should back off a little bit on slamming her, especially with the performance in this was just fabulous.
Yeah, and if I ever expect anyone to give me any grace, I'll give everyone else way more than
I'm
I think
about the
I
only
deserve.
person that will give you grace.
It's been very difficult for me my whole life.
Anyway, no, I'm sorry.
And then it got harder when I met you. Anyway.
Thanks.
Just kidding. Cynthia Erivo's fantastic.
Yeah.
Just like,
and she really does carry this film.
It is a powerhouse performance in a way that I can't say about most of the movies we've seen this year.
Especially for female performances, I can't think of anything this year that really stood out.
I mean, was Halle Berry great in Never Let Go? Absolutely.
But she's not going to be nominated for a quasi horror film,
right? It was that for one, and then two. I think maybe it's the script, but there's so much range in Cynthia's performance in this.
Yes.
It really does, like, she runs the whole gamut of emotions and does it convincingly in every moment. And for me, that was a very much a boon to my watching experience because I hate musicals. I don't get it. I'm bored by them most of the time.
Yeah.
And like I said last week, I can totally believe there were sharks in the Coliseum and suspend my disbelief.
Yeah.
But a bunch of people breaking out into singing and dancing? Nah. I'm out. Does that sound stupid? Yes. Is that how my brain works? Unfortunately.
Yeah, but most musicals are actually kind of boring and overblown and just overproduced and not very interesting. Like I do have a couple that I really like. Like I really like Little Shop of Horrors with Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
I love that film. Although the alternate ending to that is just so bizarre, I understand why the studio changed it.
Yeah.
Because like for the play, the plant wins.
Yeah.
And they tried to do that with the original ending that Frank Oz did, who directed that. But it's just so over the top and ridiculous that it just gets way out of whack really fast. And I understand why Warner Brothers went and go, no, we're going to make it like a nice little ending.
Yeah.
And then Sweeney Todd is another one that I like. And I like Johnny Depp in that.
I did like Sweeney Todd for the most part. And then Greatest Showman, I'm a sucker for.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I like
Grease.
that one.
Actually, I kind of like Grease now in my older age.
I freaking hate Grease.
It doesn't surprise me.
It's so.
No, for the longest time, I hated it too because I worked in a video store with three women that played it constantly.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely would have gone out back and returned my checkout for life.
Well, I took a pair of scissors to the videotape, so
Bravo,
they couldn't
sir.
play it.
I commend you for that. No, I think the reason that Grease always kind of bugged me was because the first time I saw it, I was babysitting like a 6-year-old. And her mom was like, yeah, just watch Grease. And like 10 minutes into the movie, I'm like, this is not for children.
No.
What are you doing?
So that was initially when I saw it, when I was like 8 or 9 years old. Like I really wanted to see it because, it had music and I had the soundtrack when I was a kid on record. And my dad was always kind of like, no. And when I finally saw it, I was like, okay, I understand now why I was being told not to see this. But
yeah,
Travolta in the 70s and Olivia Newton-John, that was something that was really like my time frame.
Yeah. I don't fault you for liking it. Everyone loves it. I
don't love it. It's better years later than it was initially when I had seen it.
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely things I've come back to later on in my life and be like, oh, okay, I get this.
At least it's better than Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton from the 70s. That's god awful.
That title is too long.
And as much as like I really do like the Beatles now, that film is sacrilege to like the Beatles. It really is.
Do you remember when we were going to review Wicked?
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you. Well,
sorry.
Okay, so but you ended up liking this though.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so good, bad, great, or terrible. Where did you end up?
Good.
With a good.
Good, borderline great.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay, here we go.
It's about to
strap in, folks.
Oh, it's about to get controversial again.
Okay.
But I hate to get controversial on the show, but I think I'm going to do it. I hate musicals.
Yeah.
We've made that very clear. I do not like sitting there when there are scenes that could play out naturally and everyone's looking directly into their face and like just spewing songs into their nostrils and they're 2 inches away from their face going full belt. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. It makes me just go, no, I don't believe either of you. I love this movie.
Oh, awesome.
I think it's great. Okay, so fun fact. We originally we were hoping that we would be able to shock each other every time we got annoyed, but I didn't have the money to buy the 10s units. And Jessica was kind enough to give us a couple of in the
clothespins.
They're clothespins. In the business, we call them C47 clamps. But this says Wicked 2024 on it. She wrote on it for us. And the first song, I immediately I was like, all right, if I can't get shocked, I'm at least going to just cause myself some pain with this clothespin. So I clipped it to my nose and looked over at you. And
I saw.
And then it didn't happen again for the rest of the movie. After I got over that initial hump, I was totally in.
I used it on my leg a couple of times.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to get into where in spoilers. But yeah, I think, the movie looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the way that this movie looks. It's definitely, a little more bubblegum than Gladiator, but the colors and the way that it's shot, yeah, exactly. It fits so well. And I don't know what it is, but a lot of musicals that I've watched, it's like the camera just goes out to this wide shot, and I feel disconnected from characters a lot, especially with older musicals, Sound of Music and things like that. There's more of that because of the way films were made as well at the time. Like, you need to do the big thing and grandiose, and it was trying to pull a little bit more from theater.
Yeah.
And so this, though, the way that they stage the scenes, the way that they shoot it, I think it's fantastic direction. And so it's
John Chu.
John Chu.
Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians, and weird enough, G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, well, he started with Step Up to the Streets.
Well, that's even. So once again, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and then he did Step Up 3D, which I don't know.
I haven't seen it. I just know that's how Channing Tatum got his start.
That's correct.
And then he met his wife.
Yep.
On the first one, and then it just went crazy with like a sequel every year because Disney does that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. They're the kind of people who go out and they go, "Oh, that's a nice cow you've got. Would you mind if we sample some of your dairy stock?" And they go, "Yes, of course." And they take a little sip and they go, "Okay, great." And then they pick up the cow with what I would call an industrial crane with a crusher on the end and squeeze every drop of milk out as fast as possible. And then they throw the dead carcass back at the farmer and go, "Thank you very much for your contribution. We will not be paying you."
Yeah, because those Step Up films, like as soon as they saw the weekend grosses, the sequel got greenlit right there, and it was one like every year. Yeah. Like all they had to do was hire some choreographer out of like arts college.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, we'll give you $30," and they're like,
right.
$30 for making art? Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I can say that as an artist. So, but it's offensive if other people don't.
Artist.
No, it's offensive when you do it. Don't steal my people's thing.
Okay.
So, Okay, so that being said, Ariana Grande.
She's annoying. I just don't like her.
She was fantastic.
No,
in this.
I think they should have had somebody else in that role.
No,
I really do.
Look back on time. Look back through time. Okay, Kristen Chenoweth. You've seen Kristen Chenoweth and stuff. You know what she's like.
Yeah.
Ariana Grande is just that, but with an extra layer of bubble gum on top.
No, I wish they would have had just Kristen Chenoweth back in that role.
Look, Kristen Chenoweth would have been great, but Ariana Grande is pushing it to a level that I instantly hated her, and I loved it. I loved every little hair flip and every like little tip, the way she walks and everything about it. The performance was like perfect.
I was so wanting to shove a donut in her mouth like half the film.
Absolutely. I totally want to take the witch's broom at the end and just start whacking away, but that's how you should feel. And the moments where look, I was enjoying the ridiculousness of her performance in the beginning, but there's a point in the movie that I won't spoil it if you don't know the story, but there's a point where she has kind of a turn as a character and has a moment where her conscience really kicks in, and the performance is great. You see her going through it like it's good.
I think she's the biggest stumbling block to this film.
I don't know. I think Jonathan Bailey's a little more.
Well, but he's supposed to be kind of duh anyway. So
sure, yeah, and he is. So it's like, but like out of the performances that I enjoyed or didn't enjoy, Jonathan Bailey, I'm kind of like neither here nor there on. But Ariana Grande, I loved the whole way through.
Okay,
I think she's probably not a person I would get along with.
Oh, definitely.
Like I'm not endorsing Ariana Grande's behavior in real life, but her behavior on screen. Fantastic. Good stuff.
Alleged crackhead.
Stop calling me that. No, I really enjoyed both of the leads' performance, the way that they play off of each other and the way that, I think Cynthia's performance pulls some of that humanity out of Ariana in the movie, and I think that Ariana pulls some of the more like lighthearted fun out of Cynthia. Like I think it was perfectly cast, and I could not imagine saying that 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
but the moment I got like that, where she rides in on the boat and everything, her mannerisms and stuff, and I come from a theater background. I did theater for several years, and it's just like that's actually top tier work from her. Like it is. Her performance is not the same like range wise as Cynthia's is, but that's because Cynthia's the one who has the story that has that range. I think Ariana Grande could pull off something.
Maybe
close
when
to
I
that.
see it again, I'll take a little bit more of that into consideration and might not be so harsh against her.
Yeah, and it's like if you're trying to look at it as like a real person, no one moves like that. No one.
Yeah,
and it would be annoying if you were trying to look at it. If she was in Gladiator, for instance. I
would join you. Would eat her.
Yes, I would absolutely. I'd go get a baker's dozen from Shipley's, and you and I would be tossing donuts at her all day. But but in this, it really is. I think it's a great performance.
Okay,
and the set design and the costume design,
and
the way that
this
the world,
really needs to be up for a lot of award nominations when that comes around.
I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's really like every single bit of this feels like like we talked about how Ridley Scott's firing on all cylinders when he makes Gladiator and Gladiator 2 we love, which weirdly enough, a lot of people not so hot on. I've started reading the reviews after we did ours. Ooh, people don't like it.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. They're wrong. But I have to agree with the movie going public here and say, look, I should have hated this. This is everything I don't like.
Right. And I'm kind of the same way.
It's great though.
It is.
It really is. And like if other people going, well, no, it's really annoying stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that too. Because most of the time I'd be the one to say that.
But at least it's good to see like two films coming out this week at very end of the spectrum, and people are coming out massively for these things.
Our theater was packed.
Yeah, and they're good movies too. Yeah. So people aren't just flocking just to see Red 1 for like a second time. Thank God.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I want to point out. Which movie looks better, Red 1 or Wicked?
Wicked, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it surprise you to learn that the budget was $100 million less than Red 1?
No.
It was $150 million total for this movie.
Because The Rock stole that money.
Yeah. He embezzled it into I don't know, oil to rub on his chest or whatever.
His production company took the half of that money.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? And the part 2, because this is part 1.
Right.
Part 2 also has a $150 million budget. So to tell this whole story, it's a $300 million budget. It's expensive. But some of the normal costs that would go into a second part of a movie, if you have to renegotiate after making the first one, your stars are going to be more expensive. So they save some money by doing it back to back, and all of the sets are already built. They don't have to break them down, do it again. You can kind of move it all together as one. So
do you know this, Garrett? Did they shoot everything all together at one time, or are they still making the second part?
I believe they did. So from what I have found,
because that's something I wasn't sure about.
Yeah, it really seems that according to Forbes, they were shot back to back between December of 2022 and January of 2024.
Because I know in Vegas, seeing Jon Chu, Ariana Grande, and the woman that played Elphaba,
Cynthia Erivo.
Erivo.
Put some respect on the name. Don't erase her.
Okay. I'm not trying to. When they were talking about it, Jon Chu had some stories that they were getting ready for her for the flying sequences, and then it got shut down because of COVID.
Right, yeah.
And they had to literally sit there and wait until everything was cleared enough for them to go back and film the rest of that.
Yeah, this they started December 2022, which is right around the time all the lockdowns really got lifted and stuff, and did all of it back to back, and it took a full year of filming, and you can tell. I mean, really, there is so much care put into every framing, every shot. It all feels right for the moment, not just for the scene, but moment to moment within the scene. And the way that they use the sets and things happening that are unexpected, during the song Popular, there's some stuff that they do with her Ariana Grande's kind of wardrobe stuff, and all of those pieces kind of move around and keep getting shifted, and there's the choreography and the way that they use the environments that they're in. They're not just dancing around stuff. The stuff becomes a dance floor or a moment for them to connect, or it really does feel like so much thought was put into it. It's a dance, pardon the pun, I guess, but it's a dance of choreography with the characters, the location, and the camera that really shows an understanding of how to tell a personal story with a verbose, grandiose sort of look. Mm-hmm. And I think that really is an achievement. Honestly,
I agree.
Look, I love Gladiator 2. I had a bigger reaction to this one.
Well, I think probably because we knew going into Gladiator 2 that we were going to like it.
That's true.
Even if it wasn't that great, we were still going to like it.
Sure, yeah.
So this one, we both go in with expectations we've been talking about this all week, how we have to do this.
We gotta do this.
Seriously. And both of us coming out here really enjoying it, so I can understand how you having a bigger reaction to this
that makes sense.
Initially we thought this is going to be torture.
Yeah, I think in general I'll probably be more ready to go back to Gladiator just because I like that part where someone's hands get cut off and you're just watching the stump bleed. So
I had to work this morning, so I purposely walked in at the end of it,
nice.
And made the guys I'm going to clean the theater when the movie's done. I went in just to watch that part to get Denzel get his hand chopped off.
Oh, dude! I also I forgot to mention last week. So minor spoilers for Gladiator 2. You'll see it coming though if you know how movies work.
Yeah.
But when he they're talking about the river earlier. Ravi and Lucius are talking about the river. He says, river in my culture, it means that you're forgiving someone or whatever. And Lucius says, in my, where I come from, crossing a river means you're already dead.
Yeah.
And Denzel crosses into the river with him at the end. And I'm like,
so there's foreshadowing there that we didn't really see just because we were caught up in the moment.
I noticed it, but forgot to mention it when we were recording. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, but yeah, both of these filmed back to back. And I just, look, there are things that are not faults, but, I think it feels long still. It's got a good pace, but it does feel long.
Especially when it gets around the time of Popular, it starts to get a little.
Yeah, but I was having fun.
Okay, no, I'm not saying. I'm not trying to take your fun away, Garrett, like I do most of the time.
Color me surprised, but not green. I don't want to be an outcast. No, I think that there was, it felt long, but also I had a lot of liquid before I got here. So that was also my bladder influences my perception of time. It's a weird thing with me, but everything is. And, but I never was wishing it was over. You know?
Yeah. And you know, the second, Michelle Yeoh, I always like her. And, you know, Jeff Goldblum, always like him too.
Yeah. He's being very Goldbloomy, but I don't care.
Yeah, but that's what he's noted. I think that's why they even recruited him for this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I couldn't, like, seeing this now, I don't think I could picture anybody else in that role of the wizard.
I don't think I could either. I mean, if you want someone to play a charming charlatan,
that's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, so is there anything else you want to talk about in spoiler free before we just get into it?
Nah, let's go to spoilers.
Yeah, let's go to spoilers. Here we go.
Spoilers.
Spoiler. Blah, 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 blah. That's the spoiler alarm. Blah, 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 blah.
Over exaggerating a little bit there, Garrett.
What do you mean? I'm just going to record that sound. Blah, 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 and I'll put that in at the beginning of the spoiler section from now on. I'll put it on a button.
Okay.
You know, like everyone's favorite button where I say
Yeah, had to go there, didn't you?
Of course I had to go there.
Just because I said something before we started recording.
That's right. You made the mistake of reminding me.
Yeah.
You should never remind me about things that you don't want. Like a sequel to G-Force, for instance.
Touche, my friend.
Oh, just to clarify, if you haven't heard previous episodes, the reason we're talking about throwing donuts at Ariana Grande is because she walked into a donut store, I believe in Texas, picked one up, licked it, put it back, and said, "I hate America." And it's just such a weird thing to do.
Yeah, because I had no idea. You told me that off
a video
air.
of it.
And my whole thing was, well, she better not have done that in Round Rock Donuts.
Yeah, that would actually be. Look, I'm
She'd have gotten shot.
I'm not the kind of person who wants to ever like see the Crusades come back, but that one I'd support.
Yeah,
I'd go for it.
Round Rock Donuts is awesome.
You leave Round Rock Donuts alone.
That's right. Where else can you get a donut as big as your head?
Oh, goodness, nowhere else, and I hope they never can, because I won't recover from the diabetic shock.
Yeah, that's why I can't eat them anymore.
I'm very sorry. Oh, no. Okay, well, Andy's crying, so while he's crying about that, we're going to... So basically, the story is, it's all about the Wicked Witch of the West and how she came to be. She's born green against her will and everyone else's, and her dad immediately says, get her out of here, because she also, when she's upset, her emotions cause her to have these magic outbreaks, I suppose. Then we kind of find out throughout it, like the tragic story of how, you know, her father's worry that his next child would be the same as Elphaba caused him to like encourage his wife to eat a bunch of moonflowers, which caused the mother to die and the baby to come early. So she
and in a
doesn't have
wheelchair
the use
to
of her
boot.
legs. Yeah. And so she carries that guilt. So she allows people to quiet her and tell her what to do. And you know, she's this strong-willed person, but she also feels guilty, so she goes along with these things, even though she's being mistreated. You know, and so it's a heartbreaking story, really, of that character. It doesn't jive for me with the actual Wicked Witch of the West from the original story, but you know, it's good. Like as kind of like an alternate history sort of thing. Like I enjoy this.
That's what it was meant to be.
Okay, yeah. So I enjoy this in the same way one might enjoy, but not tell people they enjoy Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. You know,
I actually like that movie.
Yeah, I know. Don't tell people though. I like it too.
Yeah, or cut that out later.
No.
I still always think of like that woman in Marble Falls that said it actually happened too.
That's because it did. That's my headcanon. Like how we talked about off air, our headcanon for, I was like, we'll never see what happens in Horizons Part 2, 3, or 4. And you said, no, it's fine. They all get smallpox and die. And I'm like, okay, that closure. I like it.
At least that's what I was hoping.
Yeah.
So we're spared another 3 hours of absolutely nothing.
It would be 9 hours by the end of it. Another 9. Honestly, I do want to see it though, because there's something good in there. Anyway, there
is, yeah.
If there's one complaint I have, it's why did they choose to call the school Shiz? Because Hannah and I, every time they said, welcome to Shiz, I was cracking up. I was like, I can't take you seriously. You can't call it Shiz, man. What are you doing?
I wish I could help you with that, Garrett, but I don't know either.
Why would you do that? Is it a joke? Are they pranking us? That's what I need to know. Maybe. If anyone knows, please leave a comment right in. Why did they call the school Shiz? It doesn't make sense. It's not even like they didn't even put like SCH, which would sound like Oz school in Oz or something, Shiz.
Or is it just like a slang term for Shazam?
Someone says, welcome to Shiz, and Zachary Levi cracks down onto the ground. That's the only thing that would have made this movie better.
Yeah, just hopefully not another Shazam film.
He can do the costume, but don't do the movie.
Yeah.
And I loved watching how they're playing with those ideas of what is good and what is evil. Is evil thrust upon us? Wicked thrust upon us. It was, right. But I'm okay with the thrusting upon.
Well, and the whole thing that Elphaba is supposed to be manipulated to help the wizard and control everybody in Oz, and she's like, nope, I'm not having that.
Yeah, and it's I'm wondering if in the second part, and you'll know this because you've seen the play, but like, does she at some point take? Because right now she's not evil, she's not wicked, she's being painted as that by the society.
So it's been at least 10 years since I've seen it.
Oh, really?
So
I keep forgetting how long ago this. I was in 8th grade and it was already out, and I remember I went to see the Phantom of the Opera. It was an off-Broadway production that came to Austin, and my friend took me. And then on the way back, she was like, "Have you seen Wicked?" And I was like, "No." And she goes, "Stop talking. We're listening to the soundtrack." And we listened to Wicked the whole way back. And I love the music, but I had never seen it or watched the story.
And I do like the cameos of Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel.
Yes.
That was great.
It's one of those moments where you're like, this is fan service done right. And even though I'm not a fan of the original, I still am like, okay, I know this.
But John Chu, I think, knew enough to put those things in the film to make everybody happy, but also to make the film, much more than it could be. Like, everybody's going to have probably a preconceived notion of this, like we do too. It's a musical, but there is so much that is loyal to the fan base, and it's going to make them happy. Yeah. And of course, you want to service that to get them into the theater, and also to hold them to get the second one in as well. Yes. Because if you make the first part and it's not good, and then you really Horizons, good example.
Oh yeah,
you make a first part that nobody cares or wants to see the second part. You could not do this with this story and have it be successful.
I think this is going to make back its budget by the end of the second week. So currently on Wikipedia, at least, they're saying the box office take so far is $46.74 million.
Yeah, but that's going to be way higher by the time the weekend's over.
I am absolutely certain this will be at 130.
Yeah,
like easily. This. I don't know if this is going to do $1 billion, but it's going to get freaking close. I think, because once word of mouth travels about this, everyone goes, "No, I know you hate musicals, but listen,
right?
You got to see it." And I agree. Like it is. Man, we were talking about how Gladiator. This is why we love movies. This is also why I love movies.
You're right, and it's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and speaking of the spectrum, I went to the bathroom and walked back in the wrong theater, and I started to think something might be going on in my brain.
Did you go to the other Showtime?
Yeah, I walked in and it was the part where Elphaba was like walking in and like pulling her hair to the side at the first time she appears as an adult, and I was like, are they flashing back already? And then I looked to the side where our seats were. I was like, that's not Andy. What's wrong with me? I realized, and I went back out.
Meanwhile, like, oh even more important, you didn't recognize that your wife wasn't in there.
Yeah, why did I look for you first?
Yeah, seriously, you got some issues, dude.
She does not need to listen to this episode. Oh goodness, I was looking for my safety anchor, and that's you.
And it's not your wife. That's horrible.
Well, when you're not around, she's my backup safety anchor. Okay. So like, there's some give and give.
Maybe you just got used to that because I was there for Gladiator 2 the other day, and we were the only ones that went.
Push and pull was what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Give and give is what I said. I don't know what's wrong.
You're just making up your vocabulary again as we go?
Anyway.
Okay.
So, I think that this really does a fantastic job of connecting you to the characters through showing Elphaba being the outcast and then finally having this moment where she kind of starts to get in and she's feeling excited and all that stuff.
Right.
And then it kind of gets squashed again by Guh-Linda doing all of her, shenanigans.
Yeah.
The song about loathing was my favorite part of the movie. That was when I was on board.
Yeah.
I was because it could have just been a boring, big, dance thing, but they cut to so many different moments of them messing with each other, and they're funny.
Yeah, that's I really do like that sequence as well.
It really was the one that made me go, all right, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and
so it's a fun film.
Yeah, it is the whole way. Like, we're laughing. You and I laughed at a couple things that I can't remember what they were, but I know you and I were giggling and no one else was.
Yeah,
but there were also
that's typical.
Yeah. There were also moments where the entire audience is laughing and having a good time, and
people were clapping at the end of this too. Like it's cool to see that. It really is.
It is, and I'm not I don't clap when the plane lands either. It's supposed to do that. I'll clap if something goes wrong and you still land it, but if it's the regular landing, like that's what I paid you $400 for this seat for. But for this, I almost did it. I was like, pretty good, but then I stopped myself because I was like, no.
I wanted to clap at the end of Gladiator, but
yeah, but we're men. We're not allowed to show excitement or joy.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know. The thing I wasn't expecting was this whole story about the animals being silenced and being pushed out of polite society, and the kind of the whole story with the Professor Dillamond, I believe his name was.
Yeah, and didn't realize that Peter Dinklage was the voice.
Is that Peter Dinklage?
Yeah.
Huh. It didn't sound like him at all.
Since you guys were trying to rush me out of the theater and I'm trying to watch credits.
I'm sorry. I thought you were waiting for me to find out if there was a post-credits.
No, I knew there wasn't a post-credit.
Oh, okay. Well, then you have my apologies.
Okay.
This time.
Thank you.
But never again.
Okay.
But yeah, I like that whole story and the kind of like the secret meetings of the animals who are all worried about what's going on.
It's very Orwellian.
Yeah.
Like with Animal Farm and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it really has these threads that you really care about.
Yeah.
And look, I know that everyone is screaming at their iPods right now. That's what musicals can do if you just gave them a chance, you big jerk. What are you such a jerk for? I don't know.
Yeah, but
that's my official answer.
I have seen some musicals that are just really boring.
Yeah, Music Man, I was in. It was okay.
42nd Street, I was in, and I hated it.
I was in an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. I did not like that.
I had to learn to tap dance for that, too, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Goodness.
Big fat guy tap dancing. That's not good.
You got that bass tap dancing, You get the extra little bit of force behind it.
And then, I know when I lived in New York, and I was the assistant manager for a theater in New York City, and getting Broadway tickets for sometimes were actually very easy with the stand on Broadway, where you get like last minute cancellations and stuff, and they slash the price on it. So I went to see stuff that like Miss Saigon is the one that stands out that I don't think I ever would have watched that. And that's one that's like, okay, this is why I don't like musicals. The Vietnam War musical is just no. I'd rather watch Platoon again. Or Full Metal Jacket.
I'm sorry, did you say Vietnam War musical?
Yeah, that's what Miss Saigon is.
What was the hit song? They're in the trees? What are you doing with that music? Why are you doing that?
In the rice paddy.
All right, well, that's something.
But then I also got to see Phantom of the Opera, which I absolutely love too.
Yeah.
And I don't like, our daughter Isis loves the musical version or the movie version of that. I don't.
I like the I saw the play and they did the whole swing of the chandelier over the audience.
That's pretty impressive.
I was blown away by it. It was incredible.
But then
I've never wanted to go back and rewatch like the movie or anything.
No, it's Gerard Butler being the Phantom too. That's even it's not right.
Nah, keep the mask on, bud.
Yep. Just I'm waiting for Den of Thieves too.
It was weird when we got to the scene. So they loathe each other and they're going back and forth because Guh-Linda doesn't want Elphaba there, and then the prince shows up. I guess he's a prince, something like that. Yeah. And you see him kind of have this moment with Elphaba in the woods, and I thought they had good chemistry in those moments too. I really like those two playing off of each other, and then when we get to the Ozdust ballroom, so Guh-Linda gives her this ugly hat, which is the witch's hat that we all know and love, and or hate. Some of us don't like the brim. At least if it's tilted too far forward, if you know what I'm saying. Wink, wink.
Okay.
And so, look, I've backed off of it, but it is still funny.
Yeah, I give you that.
It's all in good fun. I rescind my statements about her being ridiculous, and now I'm just laughing at the situation. So don't at me, bro. Or do. I don't care. At Grand Review Pod. But yeah, the scene where she starts dancing, even though there's no music, and she already knows, like, oh, Glinda betrayed me, but I just went and did this huge kindness for her because of my love for my sister. Because Guh-Linda had, while trying to blow off a boy, encouraged him to go ask out her sister to this dance. Yeah. And she was really excited, and it meant a whole lot to her. So, and she's like, I wish I could do something for her as a thank you. And Elphaba does it on her behalf. And you really can see how much she loves her sister in doing that. But that ends up being, an act of good, selfless good, that leads to this moment where, even though she's been betrayed, she just goes on she came there to dance, and she's going to do it to show them that they can't hurt her. Right. And everyone's laughing and giggling, and you really normally I'm like, yes, I get it. Everyone's very mean. Whatever, I don't care. Like in movies where they do this over the top thing, especially in musicals. Yeah. But in this one, there was something about Cynthia's performance that really made me hurt for her. Yeah. And then seeing Glinda go out there and join her in that, and it's eerily quiet for most of it. And it really works. And then there's that moment where they're up close to each other, and Elphaba turns, and you see that tear roll down her cheek. And it's just that's great movie making. It is. That's fantastic,
Yeah, John Chu's going to be up for Best Director for this. I can already see it.
I think so. Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to recognize Doom, but I think this is giving it a run for its money. Honestly.
Well, remember what we said in Gladiator? Josh Brolin said if Denis Villeneuve is not nominated, he's going to quit acting.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, when they try to do Goonies 2 and they offer him a boatload of cash.
Yeah. So far, Ellen's the only one to follow up on her threat to leave the country if Trump won, and thank God.
She did. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. Goodbye.
What a turn. And so
I never liked Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, there was a short period of my life where I did, but then I started to go, she looks really fake. And how about that?
And then going back to that movie that she did, Mr. Wrong with Bill Pullman. Yeah.
Whoa, I don't remember that.
Of course, done for Disney.
That's 3 strikes against it. 1 for Disney and 2 for Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah. Oh goodness. I like the look of the Emerald City as well, and when we get into there and all the different shades of green they've got going on, and I thought that the sort of move from the brightness of Emerald City into this inner sanctum where he's got the big giant mechanical head that comes out and says, I am Oz, the great and terrible. Yeah. And then it's like this dark and dour sort of feeling. And then he comes out and you're like, oh, big relief, and everyone knows that's what's going on.
Right. That the Oz really is not a magician or great and powerful. He's just a regular guy.
Right. And I mean, a brilliant engineer. Yeah, given that, but yeah, they have that foreboding presence, and then he comes out, and then it becomes really foreboding when she starts to
when they bring out that book,
the Grimmery.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
And it's one of those instances where we've talked about this before, where a director's job is to build and release tension, and it's doing it multiple times in this scene, right? And it works really, really well. It makes you go, oh, okay. Oh, maybe okay. Oh, no, it's not okay. Oh, monkey. Oh, bad for monkey. And the transformation of the monkeys into flying monkeys is horrifying to watch, and it looks painful.
But it's really cool.
It's really cool though, yeah. Yeah. Without being bloody and gory, it's towing that line. It's horrifying for him because you see him in pain, and the animation and the rendering of those is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
there's a couple of moments where some of the fur and stuff looks a little artificial. It's a CG character, and that happens a couple of times throughout the movie. But generally, like the fact that the most of it looks better than what happened in Red 1 at almost every turn.
Well, even too, this looks better than Oz the Great and Powerful did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like the set design and everything looks way better than.
Yeah,
and I really hate bashing a Sam Raimi film, but. Sure. Everything about this was way better than that was.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things about the Sam Raimi film is it just feels ungrounded in a way. It feels fantastical, but you can't believe it,
Right.
Whereas in this one, you're buying her walking through this tunnel of trees, but then all these little like flowers start to pop open and they're kind of glowing on the inside and stuff. And it's got that kind of extra element instead of replacing all of the real foliage and stuff. You can tell they're on this real set and they've augmented it. And and like I said, we've talked about this before. VFX works best when it is augmenting what you're doing in camera, not when it's replacing it.
Well, even like we talked, they did that in Gladiator with the sky and everything, and I noticed that a little bit more in this film since we just talked about it recently.
Yeah.
But it's done just as well as Gladiator was, if not a little bit better.
And there are times where I'm pretty sure they're just on a soundstage, but the outside is blowing out in the background.
Right.
When at the end of Popular, they're in that hallway is like when it really happens, you can just see the background just completely blowing out.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's what would happen. That's absolutely what would happen. But they also have all the lighting turns pink, and it's all like you can see the colors shift as she's up by herself being all popular, and it's like, which is an oxymoron, I just realized. But while I was watching it, I was just like, yeah, like on one hand, the fact that it's blowing out as much as it is, technically makes it look cheaper. Because old videotapes, if you watch them, one of the big giveaways that a digital camera especially, is not highest quality is because it blows out and there's no highlight roll off. So like phone cameras, especially older ones, used to be really bad about that. And you can just go look at old VHS tapes and you'll see if there's a window, it's just like bam, white. And that's happening a little bit here, but it felt like it was a choice to ground it a little bit in, look, that's outside, this is inside, there's a big brightness difference, get over it. And I was like, interesting, because I know they could have controlled that. They could have put a big sheet of, if that is outdoors, they could have put a big sheet of ND gel over that opening, and it would have knocked it down, and you would have been able to see more, and it wouldn't have blown out as much. But something about letting it blow feels right.
Right. And I was wrong. It wasn't COVID that halted the production on this. It was the writer's strike.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I got that wrong, so I wanted to correct myself.
Good thing it was mostly written.
Yeah.
Because it's an adaptation. Actually, I believe it's one of the writer of the book, not the music, but the book that did the...
yeah, because it's a book
Holtzman.
even before it was a musical. So
that's right. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah,
because it's like this movie is based on the musical, which is based on the book. At the end,
so you gotta hand it for source material then on this.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
And I even like that Elphaba in some of the scenes even looks more African American than green, and they kind of I think they did that on purpose. Just to give her a little bit more of an outcasty look, and that she definitely doesn't fit in with the whole society of the school.
It's a very white school,
right?
I don't think that's unintentional.
No,
it's
I don't either.
Potentially the most bisexual school I've ever seen in film, because when the prince shows up, there's not a single man who doesn't swoon, and I'm just like,
especially the one with glasses.
Does he have special powers to just turn people to the other team? What's happening?
Well, that's what The Rock wants everybody to do too. And Red One's going to kill that.
So the cinematographer for this, she worked with John Chu on Gem and the Holograms, which is a movie I completely even forgot happened.
Oh, he did that?
Yeah.
Oh, good thing he buried that.
She also, let's see, Dance Camp, Girl Flu, One Fall, Alex and Me. I don't know any of these, but In the Heights, she did In the Heights.
I saw In the Heights.
How did that look?
It looked great.
Well, fantastic. She's a fantastic cinematographer. That's
actually another musical I kind of like.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you wouldn't like that one.
I didn't see it.
No. Well, it's not a shock that you didn't see it.
Yeah, it's not a shock when I don't see anything.
But that's not. It's not as long as this is. It's only like 2 hours and 10 minutes long. But seeing Jimmy Smits again, in his Washington Heights section in New York too, it's not a bad film.
Okay.
It didn't do what they thought it would.
Yeah, I remember people being like, "Oh, this bombed really bad and is bad."
Yeah, because they were hoping the Latino and Hispanic community would come out in droves to support that, and they saw the singing, and nope, then they were not interested.
It was also John Chu that directed that.
Yeah,
some of his stuff did not show up on his Wikipedia page. I've been let down.
Crazy Rich Asians is the one that got me into him, though.
Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians.
Even though you don't like Aquafina,
it was good. I don't look. I think she just does the same thing every time, and it's not that entertaining. All right, I don't know what to tell you. All right,
see, meanwhile,
I'm watching here.
Meanwhile, I was making fun of it initially because I thought like the best part of this film was going to see the Bad Guys 2 trailer at the beginning.
It was a good trailer. Why is she in his mouth? I will not add context to that.
That's sad that it doesn't come out until next August.
Yeah, they are starting that campaign early. It's weird.
And then me kind of putting the wrong trailer on for Sonic. But it's actually kind of funny, and I'm not changing it. I don't care.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I also like how that Sonic trailer has absolutely no respect for matching dialogue to mouth.
Way off.
Just doesn't care. There's like, who's going to notice? Children? No. Adults? Who cares? They're going to bring their kids to it anyway. We've already got their money. Who cares?
I kind of have to. Mufasa in that last trailer that we saw too actually doesn't look that horrible.
You've been tricked.
Okay.
I can tell you why. Because maybe I'm wrong, but
Timon and Pumbaa.
I can guess on why. Timon and Pumbaa won't be in it a lot because they're just there for the narrative setup of the whole thing, for one. Two, they overcorrected because the first trailer is all like, the drama of the Lion King and the things that happened before time began, and we will have these lions and there will be only one Lion King. And in this one, they have the same stuff, but behind it they put ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's just lying. That's not the tone of the movie.
You're right, and I kind of butt into it. I still don't think it's going to do that well. I think Sonic's going to kick its butt.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they come out the same weekend.
Mufasa? More like Hufasa. When did that come out? Like, Sonic's going to wipe the floor with it.
Trying to do like theater placements for advanced ticket sales, like I knew Mufasa was not going to get like our biggest theater. I put it in like a second biggest theater, and Sonic got the biggest house.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do gangbusters. I mean, the fact that we made it through the second one and they still get to make a third one, it's going to make money.
I never saw the second one.
It was fine. And then at the end, it's like, but probably only if you like Sonic the games.
Okay.
Because it's just a big Eggman like battle bot, and it's awesome.
I've never played the game.
It's so silly and stupid, but just don't go looking up any of like Sonic's story on the internet. I think I've warned you about this. There's no one who has more fan fiction, disgusting stories written about them than Sonic the Hedgehog.
Content only.
Oh my goodness. Do not let your children look up Sonic stories. There are Sonic comic books that are apparently very good, but you better buy them on eBay, read them beforehand, and then hand them to the child.
I still like how the toy manufacturers of the Wicked toys are like super apologizing too.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And there's still fallout from that right now.
Is there really?
Yeah.
What have you heard?
Just they keep apologizing because people keep like bashing them before.
Well, yeah, they put a link on the back of a children's toy to a nudie website. You can't do that. You can't.
I know.
Do that. How do you screw that up too? Like, what? You just assume they bought that domain? No one is. Do you know how much money it would take for them to buy that from the people who peddle pornography?
Well, and Universal came out and claimed too that they were not responsible. They have nothing to do with it. That's totally the manufacturer's problem, and they're like dissing themselves with like a 10-foot cattle prod from that.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
That is absolutely the toy manufacturer's fault. Now, should they have been sending those box designs for
Approval?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So you could say potentially that those eyes were put on it at some point that should have caught it. But also maybe everyone
Yeah, but it's not really the studio's fault that happened either.
Right, yeah. But I mean, the higher-ups up there, I just think that anytime you're printing a website on a box, you should probably just type the website in and see what it happens. Because what comes up? Is it Elphaba singing Defying Gravity and this glorious music and these wonderful colors? Or is it someone's daughter who shouldn't be in that situation?
Okay, so
just check, you know?
That Defying Gravity song I really like.
Oh, Defying Gravity is fantastic. Yeah. It's always been fantastic. And yeah, seeing it with the visuals of her cloak flowing and I mean the powerhouse of her voice, like it is some fantastic.
It's a great close. And they stopped it at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
To pick up for the second one. So I think the second part of this too, because I think we got off track for that.
Never.
Is Elphaba actually almost launching terrorist attacks against the Emerald City and the wizard?
That sounds like most animal activists I know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Is she a member of PETA?
Yeah. Is she going to start doing mean tweets?
Are vegans coming after us?
Oh, no. Good thing they don't have any protein. So I'm kidding. Again, these are jokes. Don't at me, bro, at Grand Review Pod on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, the ending of this and her stealing the grimoire and going out, trying to run away, and it really does become like really stressful with all the monkeys busting through the windows, threatening to grab her and stuff. Like, I think you could take a kid to see this, and it wouldn't be like a problem for them.
Yeah, there's although we saw a lot of kids being escorted to the bathroom by parents throughout the entire film.
Yeah, I was one of them.
I wasn't saying you, Garrett.
I know, but I mean, I didn't have a parent to escort me, so I was scared. Oh. But I did have to go a couple times.
But I did. But there's nothing bad for kids in this film at all. In fact, I would say, taking a little kid to have appreciation for theater and musicals and stuff, this would be great for that.
Absolutely. And I also think that it's interesting that it's both effective and visceral without being scary.
Yeah.
Like that's a hard balance to find.
Yeah, very much.
And they really, really did it. And I'm just so enamored with the feel of the world in this and how much I bought into it. And yeah, it's not a movie that's gonna like change your life. It's not like when I watched Secret Life of Walter Mitty, it made me, I almost bought a ticket to Iceland like the next day. But I
don't blame you on that one. I really do like that film too.
If people haven't seen it, that's one you have to check out. Secret Life of Walter Mitty is
with
so touching.
Ben Stiller. Yeah. And I think Ben Stiller directed that.
He did.
Too.
Yes.
And Sean Penn in actually a likable role for him, which is a switch.
And a mercifully short role.
Yeah.
But this one, I think that even if it's not the kind of thing that'll make you, change your whole life, and like it's making a point about what is good and what really is good and what is evil and how does it get forced upon us and all that stuff. Right. It's doing those things, but more than anything, by the end of it, I just kind of felt my spirits lifted a little.
Yeah,
it was a good time, and I enjoyed watching that story unfold, and I really got invested in the characters. I'm critical of everything.
Well, yeah, we know this. Even more so than me.
I know. Imagine that.
But I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay. All trains lead to Oz. So once you find the next one, it'll get us there. I like the design of that train.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a cool, like all the little gears and stuff, and you can see it in the head too.
Yeah, and it almost has like a steampunk feel to it too. Yeah. I like that kind of stuff.
My wife leaned over to me and said, when they got to Oz, or the wizard, and he's singing his song to them, and she leans over, she goes, "He's kind of creepy to me. I don't know why." I was like, "No, that's just Jeff Goldblum. You get used to it."
Yeah. I although I was almost sitting there waiting for an apartments.com for the best pad in Emerald City.
And perhaps this pile of bricks could become your home. At apartments.com, they have all of the best places in Oz.
Yeah, that's...
Not sponsored.
Right.
Go anywhere else now that we've said it for free. Go to wherever else you need to. Just go find an apartment by pestering a bum in an alleyway and going, where do they let people live? And that's what we're sponsored by.
Yeah, but you don't want to go behind the theater and do that.
No. There's no bums back there. It's very clean.
That's a first.
Yeah. Anything else you kind of want to talk about in this?
No, I think, yeah. So if you're thinking of like going to see this and you're doing like kind of what we did before we saw this, like musical and roll your eyes, think again, because if it sold Garrett on it, I think like everybody can buy onto this film very easily too.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like the curmudgeon that I am. But I'll do it this one time. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, because you're even younger than I am.
But I am very curmudgeonly, and there's very much like when I'm not interested in something, I can go in and it can be the best version of that thing, and I still hate it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for instance. That's like one of the top tier
polarizing for the two of us.
It's one of those top tier slasher films. Like that was the gold standard when it came out. Everyone wanted to do that. I still hated it, and I don't think I'll ever change my opinion on that. But
you redeem yourself too because you said you liked Halloween.
Yeah, because that one's actually a movie instead of just someone trying to make torture porn.
It's a little different than that.
Yeah, but what do you want from me? I have opinions, and I'm here to say them into a microphone.
I have figured that I did my job by actually liking some horror films this year too.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get me wrong. You have sucked me into the dark side a little bit. Yeah, I'm definitely I got a little more yang with my yin, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying, so I hope you do. But
I'm not going to drag you into like the body horror stuff of like David Cronenberg and that. I don't think you would survive.
I just like, does it have a point? I feel like it does, but David Cronenberg, it's hard to tell what the point is.
If you're going to go that route, let's stick with Jeff Goldblum and his version of The Fly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have heard a lot of things about The Fly that, I do want to check it out.
It's horrific, but it's actually really good.
Yeah. I mean, flies are gross. So I imagine that you mix that with Jeff Goldblum, who creeped my wife out. It's going to be really weird.
And it's a younger Jeff Goldblum, too.
Oh, a sexy fly.
With Gina Davis in that, too.
Oh, a sexy fly.
But then there's The Fly 2 that Cronenberg had nothing to do with it, with Eric Stoltz. Yeah, don't even bother with that. It's really bad.
I would never.
Yeah. I'm just warning other people, too.
Fair enough.
Since we have Popeye the Slayer man to look
that's gonna be something. I tell you what.
It's gonna be something.
Well, yeah. I reiterate. This movie's great. It is. It's
worth your time, even though it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's definitely worth your time.
Yeah, and look, guys, I know some of the guys out there are probably going like, I still don't know. If you've got a lady friend,
it'll put her in the mood.
You to sing with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
we keep it PG. All of our audience is 14-year-old boys, so don't. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Wicked is it's a great date movie. My wife and I had a lot of fun. Just kind of like
it was nice meeting Hannah's parents too.
Yeah, they're great. Tony and Crystal, they were here, and they didn't get to sit with us because they bought their tickets late, but they were there and got to explore.
They're lucky they actually got tickets.
I know, right? And in recliners, no less. But my father-in-law Tony is a big fan of Wicked. He loves it, and he thought this was fantastic. So I know that's a thumbs up from a fan of the production. So all right, well. Let us know what you thought. I found out on Spotify, at the very least, I can actually run a poll for good, bad, great, or terrible. So I'm going to start doing that on episodes. If you listen on Spotify, if you listen on other places, you can still go to Spotify and just like pull up the episode and vote. So we'd love to hear what people think. But
so since you were saying a lot of people don't like Gladiator 2, have we gotten any hate mail about that yet?
No hate mail. But we did have. I don't know if you remember Scott. But he left a comment on a couple of our reviews previously.
Oh, okay.
And we read out a couple of things he talked about here and stuff. He also left a comment on our review of Gladiator 2. So already on there. So thanks, Scott. Scott Sullivan TV on YouTube. He says, the original is a masterpiece of filmmaking, talking about Gladiator.
It is.
This one was what you'd expect from a modern-day Ridley Scott. A lot of fun and masterfully crafted, but also very generic plotting and lacking interesting, well-developed characters. I can see what he means. I think I might disagree on the Denzel's character, specifically, but I do think I mean even I mentioned that Lucius is a little kind of flat generally.
Yeah, but he's really not the driving force of that film. It's mostly Denzel.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I said, I really wish his character was called Nero. It would have been a little more fitting, I think.
Just a little bit of fan service for history nerds. That would have been great.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I was coming from with that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Scott, thanks for your comment.
Thanks, Scott.
But yeah, everyone, let us know, good, bad, great, or terrible. What do you think of Wicked, and what do you think of Gladiator 2, and what do you think of Red 1? And did you see it? Because most people didn't.
Most people didn't. $250 million and $30 million return, and I think half of that was from Grand Avenue.
I'm pretty sure 90% of its grosses are just from Drew.
He saw it for the first time today.
He loved it. He loved it.
He did.
He loved
it. FaceTime before we went on air.
What was his favorite part?
Where the guy got kicked in the nuts.
Absolutely. And you know what, Drew? I know you're listening. I agree.
You know what the best part of Red 1 was?
The ending.
Yes, exactly.
It was over. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your joke. I just was like, yeah, we're in the same boat here.
That's cool. No,
Sorry.
That's why I do this podcast with you.
Same sled. Let me get that Christmassy enough for the podcast. So, all right. Well, we have one little bit of news. I won't bore everyone with a whole bunch of news. We did most of that in Gladiator
we did that with Gladiator.
But I do want to talk about Wolves real quick. So Wolves was the movie that came out from the director of the last Spider-Man trilogy starring Brad Pitt, George Clooney. I'm having to say this because a lot of people didn't see it in theaters, but
it's one of our favorites of this year.
Oh, absolutely. It's way up there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. There was going to be a sequel. Apple announced a sequel.
There is?
Was. Yeah, so this is heartbreaking. Apparently, the movie became the most viewed movie ever when released on Apple TV.
On Apple.
So like it boom, big numbers for a small
and once again, I mentioned it when we did the podcast on that, but I hope they feel really stupid for not putting it in theaters.
Oh, they have to now, because let me tell you what happened. So they had put out there, Apple in their press release had said, we're doing a sequel. John Watts had found out a week before the movie was pulled from theaters, the first one, that that was going to happen. So he finds out a week before it's happening, and Apple just goes, that's what we're doing. And he tells them, don't put anything about me doing a sequel in your press release then. They did anyway. Then it was announced that it was canceled because John Watts canceled it, not Apple. He refuses to write it.
Good for him.
Absolutely.
I give it, that's John Watts. My respect, man.
I want another one.
I do too, but
someone's got to spank these people.
Go to another studio.
Yeah, I mean, Apple probably has the IP rights, which would be the main problem.
Yeah, but I think that wouldn't it be the way around it is just to not call it Wolves 2, but just give it another title.
Yeah, you just do a legacy sequel, bring on the other people, and be like, nah, it's not. That's not those characters.
But not to
also, they have names in the credits, so you can just say, oh no, it's the other way around. You just flip them.
I want to see how they get out of that diner at the end of that too.
Me too. With so few bullets and only handguns.
Yeah.
They got submachine guns outside. Yeah. What happens, John Watts?
And the Russian mob too.
At the very least, write it. I can imagine George Clooney in my brain. I'm doing it every day going, God, please let me look like George Clooney.
If you need it, Belton, Texas is available, so please come and shoot it here.
We have a great downtown segment that would be awesome for like a standoff sort of scene. There's a saloon down there even. You can do a Western. You can pick it up in the Old West. I don't care. Jump time. Do something. But yeah, Wolves is great. But John Watts said that he was talking to Deadline, and he said, I showed Apple my final cut of Wolves early this year. They were extremely enthusiastic about it and immediately commissioned me to start writing a sequel. But their last-minute shift from promised wide theatrical release to a streaming release was a total surprise and made without any explanation or discussion. I wasn't even told about it until less than a week before they announced it to the world. I was completely shocked and asked them to please not include the news that I was writing a sequel. They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, seemingly to create a positive spin to their streaming pivot. And so I quietly politely returned the money they gave me for the sequel. I didn't want to talk about it because I was proud of the film and didn't want to generate any unnecessary negative press. I loved working with Brad and George and Amy and Austin and Porna and Zlatko, and would happily do it again. But the truth is that Apple didn't cancel the Wolf sequel. I did, because I no longer trusted them as a creative partner.
So do you think that's going to keep a lot of like artists away from Apple now for doing films for them?
I think that it's going to have the same effect that Warner Brothers has seen, where they're people who probably were on board with going over, because I mean, Apple, whatever your opinion on the company is, they have high quality productions. Severance is fantastic. Silo is apparently very good. I need to see that.
I need to see that too.
And so like they're doing stuff that people go, this is like fantastic art, and Apple is allowing them to do these more experimental weird things. Severance is a weird show, but it's really good. And they probably had a lot of goodwill from that front, and they would have kept it if they had done this release. But if they were trying to boost their streaming numbers for whatever their responsibility to their shareholders is, then what they ended up doing was really kind of coming through the back door and like taking a garrote around their creative partners and just pulling it until they stop breathing.
Well, shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, absolutely. They pulled the garrote and then just smacked themselves in the forehead with their fists.
I almost guarantee Wolves would have been the number one film that week if it had gotten a wide theatrical release.
I think it would have as well. And if it wasn't the first week, it would have been the second.
Yeah.
Because word of mouth on that was so good.
Absolutely.
And everyone who saw it was praising it. And then when it came out on streaming, it did gangbusters.
And so did we.
People wanted it.
Right.
Just pulling that, and it's not just George Clooney and Brad Pitt make that movie work in a way it wouldn't otherwise, but also the direction makes that movie work.
Yes.
I
guess you could have seen a precursor to that too. Apple was the one that had Greyhound too, that Tom Hanks did.
Yeah, that's right.
World War II. And it's a really good movie, but I think the problem with that was COVID. It got pushed to Apple Plus because COVID and theaters at the time really were not they weren't even open. So
yeah, and I also think that World War II stuff it's a hard sell in theaters right now. I don't know why, but even Monuments Men, which had a stellar cast and was by all accounts
but that did
good,
okay.
But it didn't like do what they expected.
Yeah, but Tom Hanks, almost his career is kind of in jeopardy with now. Man Called Otto didn't do well. Here really didn't do well.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because both of those are just really good movies. So when Here comes out on streaming, definitely watch that.
He'll be fine though. He's got Toy Story 5 coming up.
Yeah.
You know what though?
I'm really against that.
I said that about Toy Story 4 and then ended up liking Toy Story 4.
No, I was okay with number 4, but the end of that with Andy being grown up and giving away his toys, I don't want to see a sequel to that at this point.
Isn't that the third one?
I thought that was number 4.
No, it's the third one. The third one, he gives it away to the little girl. And then number 4, they're on the road trip and she makes Forky.
Which is the dumbest character ever.
I don't like Tony Hale at all. Like, I have moral issues with the way he treats people and things that he's into. But
I don't even know who he is.
I'll send you his article.
Okay.
But that being said, like, the stuff with the abandoned China doll and how creepy all that stuff was, and then the way that they recreated actual lenses digitally, so that all the imperfections and stuff that you would find in physical lenses were on that. Like, it's an achievement in animation that I was so fascinated by and looked gorgeous. So there's a lot about that movie I like. I'm feeling resistant to Toy Story 5 as well, but also.
Yeah,
I know I'm going to see it. So what's the point in being a curmudgeon today?
You know that we're going to see that for this.
Yeah,
but
because we're cursed to do this until we die.
So speaking of lenses too, the auditorium that we saw this in tonight too was another one that I fixed with the UV filter.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I got that all done before these big movies this weekend.
Yes, yeah. So look, if you've been to Grand Avenue, Andy is doing all the hard work to keep everything in tip-top shape, and I've appreciated the changes and the improvements you've made. Like,
it's not just me. There's people behind me that help me with this too. But it's a daunting task. It really is.
Yeah, it's a lot. But man, I'm seeing the hard work pay off.
Thank you.
And I love it here, and I love it here more now. But alrighty, well, Wolves. Look, I hope that they work something out, and just. if you're gonna get in bed with someone who's giving you money to make a movie and they promise you a theatrical release, have it written down with no wiggle room to get out.
Right.
Get it in the contract.
Ironclad.
Because there is every company's, even if the one person who promised it to you intended to, that guy could be out next week for being a Dan Harmon or a Justin Roiland. So you have no idea. Like, just make it where there's no wiggle room for those things.
Warner Brothers is right now high on my hate list too.
Oh yeah,
because of Juror Number 2.
Mm-hmm. There's look, the thing about publicly traded companies, which Warner Brothers and Disney and all these places are, you do public trading so that you can sell stock, so that you can have an inflow of cash, so you can invest. But then you have a responsibility to those investors. The problem with investors is they're stupid.
Well, no. Yes and no. Here's my take on that, too. The investors on this thing know nothing about the movie business or exhibition.
Yeah.
And that's why they really should not be... I understand they got to get their money from somewhere. But have somebody that has this, like, knows what theater owners and theater exhibitors have to go through on a week-by-week basis to get product into the theater and get people in butts in the seats. And they just don't care.
I think the thing that, I know they have spreadsheets that show them how much money each thing makes or whatever, but the thing that often I think gets overlooked, because the businessmen get promoted to these positions, right? It's not creatives. And sometimes that's right, because creatives are notoriously unreliable. But the thing about it is that you can't just look at the numbers. You have to look at the psychology of the movie going public and what gets them excited about stuff. And having something, even if your numbers go like, oh, we'll get this many more subscriptions and that'll make us more money than the theatrical release. The thing about it is that people, when they see a movie get pulled from theaters and go to streaming, their first inclination is, oh, it must be crap.
Not good.
Because Netflix has ruined that for everyone.
Yeah.
And you're not going to undo that. It's just common knowledge, like, oh, Netflix originals, yeah, they used to have some interesting stuff, but they canceled all the good stuff. They always cancel all the good stuff. So if they're bringing it to this, it's because it's crap and they have no faith.
Well, and going further with that too, COVID really started that line of thinking too, with day and date stuff.
Yep.
And Warner Brothers was a big part of that.
Good job, Warner Brothers. You lost Oppenheimer. You idiots.
Which you still haven't seen.
No. But we talked about maybe like doing a private thing, right? And
yeah,
like,
I'm gonna hook that sucker up to one of the projectors.
Yeah.
But we gotta have it's a 3-hour film.
Oh goodness. Okay,
but it's definitely worth it.
I'll bring my porta potty.
We'll hook you up with a colostomy bag.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, as long as I don't have to do it myself, I'm scared.
I'm not doing it for you. That's Anna's job.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as someone takes a drill and drills it into my, kidneys, whatever it is, wherever it needs to go. I don't know how they work, but that would make movie going better for me. Worse for everyone else. Sure, but better for me.
Okay.
And on that selfish note, I think it's time for us to wrap this up. So
yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry I talked about peeing so much. I won't cut it out. There's too many places and I didn't mark it.
Well, I've gone down the rabbit hole with like the 70s stuff today too. So, and cutting you out and getting way off topic.
No, that's all right.
That's okay.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure, like I said, let us know what you thought about the movie. Good, bad, great, or terrible. Yes. At Grand Review Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And then, or on YouTube. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, Scott, for leaving a couple of comments.
Yeah, thank
we
you,
appreciate
Scott.
it.
Appreciate you.
And I guess that means there's only one thing left to say, Andy. I believe you know what it is. It is, we'll see you at the movies. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, y'all.
We did it.
Well, you've seen firsthand.